The receipt is only $23. A carton of eggs, a gallon of milk, bread, ground beef, a bag of apples. Nothing extravagant. Nothing luxurious. Just enough food for a few days. The cashier announces the total, and for a brief second, the woman at the register freezes. She checks the number on the screen, then opens her banking app. The balance flashes back at her. Her paycheck arrived only 4 days ago. Most of it is already gone. Rent claimed the largest share. Utilities took another. Insurance premiums quietly withdrew money she never physically touched. Student loan payments resumed months ago. Her credit card balance grows every month despite her promise that this month would be different. She quietly removes the apples, then the beef. Finally, she puts back the eggs. Nobody around her notices. But this tiny decision represents something much larger than groceries. It represents a financial equation that millions of Americans solve every single day. For decades, America builds its identity around a simple promise. Work hard, earn more, build a better life than your parents. Yet today, millions of households earn more dollars than ever before while feeling poorer than ever before. How does that happen? Why does the stock market repeatedly hit new highs while families struggle to afford rent, healthcare, childcare, and groceries? This is the story of a financial machine that quietly changes the relationship between work, money, and survival over nearly 50 years. To understand today's crisis, we have to examine the hidden architecture beneath everyday prices. Because the most expensive part of living isn't always on the receipt. From the late 1940s through roughly the early 1970s, productivity and typical worker compensation largely moved together. Imagine two people climbing the same staircase. One represents the economy, the other represents workers. As each step is climbed, both rise together. Then something changes. Around the 1970s, the two people climbing the staircase stop moving together. The economy continues upward. Workers slow down. Productivity keeps accelerating through technological innovation and automation. But median wage growth begins lagging behind. The staircase has split into two different escalators. This divergence creates a vulnerability, because if incomes stop growing, households begin relying on something else: debt. Think of debt like a bridge. If you need to cross a river today but won't receive your paycheck until next week, borrowing allows you to reach the other side. But every bridge has a weight limit. Exceed it, and the bridge doesn't fail instantly. It begins developing invisible cracks. Instead of slowing down, someone quietly attaches a motor to the treadmill. You continue moving, but the source of movement has fundamentally changed. Now imagine a whiteboard. Start with a worker earning income. If money remains afterward, savings accumulate. Now erase one part. Housing increases. Healthcare increases, college costs increase, the financial plumbing quietly reroutes itself. Income no longer funds consumption alone. One of the largest pipes in the system is housing. For generations, buying a home symbolizes financial stability. Until affordability changes, healthcare introduces another layer. Deductibles, co-payments, and prescription drug prices leave households paying thousands beyond their premiums. The American dream has not disappeared, but the price of admission has risen dramatically. The hidden cost of living crisis becomes impossible to understand if we only look at prices. The real story is about time. Every financial obligation quietly claims a portion of your future labor. A monthly rent payment is not simply money leaving your bank account. It represents hours you have not worked yet. A student loan payment represents future paychecks that have already been assigned a destination. A healthcare bill represents tomorrow's income paying for yesterday's emergency. One by one, these obligations occupy future earnings before those earnings even exist. Economists sometimes refer to this as a balance sheet problem rather than simply an income problem. Two households can earn exactly the same salary. One has no debt. The other has a mortgage, student loans, car loans, credit card balances, childcare expenses, and medical debt. They appear identical but inhabit different worlds. The second household owns far less of its future. This explains why millions feel insecure despite historically high employment levels. The paycheck arrives, but much of it never truly belongs to them. This growing mismatch receives an unexpected shock in 2020. When the COVID-19 pandemic spreads, the U.S. experiences one of the fastest economic shutdowns. Businesses close, travel stops, factories slow production, restaurants empty, supply chains fracture almost overnight. At first, policymakers focus on preventing economic collapse. Congress authorizes trillions in emergency spending. Stimulus checks reach households. The Federal Reserve cuts interest rates close to zero and purchases massive quantities of bonds to stabilize financial markets. The objective is clear: prevent a health crisis from becoming a permanent financial depression. Initially, these actions succeed, but another problem quietly develops beneath the surface. Demand recovers much faster than supply. Factories cannot produce enough. Shipping containers accumulate in the wrong ports. Labor shortages appear across industries. Too many dollars begin chasing too few goods. Prices start climbing. Inflation spreads through the economy. Food, furniture, used cars, new vehicles. construction materials, insurance, groceries, eventually housing. For households already operating with little financial margin, this creates enormous pressure. A family that previously balanced its budget suddenly discovers groceries cost noticeably more. Electricity bills rise. Gasoline absorbs more income. Nominal wages also begin rising. Businesses compete for workers. Signing bonuses appear. Average earnings climb, except inflation often rises faster. Imagine receiving a 10% raise while your largest expenses increase by 12%. Nominal income measures the number on your paycheck. Real income measures what that paycheck can actually buy. People are not imagining the pressure. Their purchasing power has genuinely changed. Every family possesses its own inflation rate. For millions, that personal inflation rate exceeds the official headline number. Then interest rates begin rising. To slow inflation, the Federal Reserve increases its benchmark interest rate at the fastest pace in decades. Think of the economy as an engine running too hot. Higher interest rates remove fuel. Eventually, the engine cools. But cooling an overheated engine also slows the entire vehicle. Mortgage rates surge. Home affordability deteriorates further. For households carrying revolving debt, monthly interest payments increase dramatically. Asset inflation. Over the past several decades, another category experiences extraordinary appreciation. Stocks, real estate, and investment funds. Income pays bills. Assets build wealth. A salary allows survival. Ownership allows compounding. Renters simply face higher rents. The same economic event produces opposite outcomes depending on where someone stands within the system. Labor remains important. Capital increasingly determines long-term wealth. Consider ETFs. An ETF is a basket holding many investments. It lowers costs and provides diversification. The lesson is that every financial innovation possesses plumbing beneath its marketing. Always ask, who benefits first? Imagine every household as operating 3 separate financial engines: income, expenses, and wealth. The woman who puts eggs back on the shelf is responding to decades of economic evolution. Her shopping basket carries the fingerprints of global forces. Understanding this is about recognizing how the financial system distributes opportunity, risk, and responsibility. Financial literacy means understanding systems. The hidden cost of living crisis is the intersection of inflation, housing, and wages. Understanding the hidden cost of living isn't about fearing the future. It's about recognizing the invisible forces shaping it and navigating with clarity.